most of your fans have read a lot of reviews of your latest album, Train of Thoughts. It could be interesting to hear your description of the album in your own words.
Well, for us, we wanted to make an album that was a little different than the previous ones. In the past, when we wrote, we'd go into the rehearsal studio and write a record, and then go into the recording studio and record it. We kind of abandoned that method for the last 2 albums, Scenes from Memory and 6 Degrees. So we decided to get back to that, where we went into a rehearsal studio, cranked everything up, and got together. And the aim was to write songs that were, darker in mood, so no happy songs. And also, I wanted to use some lower tunings for a more heavy sound. Some of the music and bands that I've been listening to lately, kind of into that sound. Wanted the album to sound like some of that stuff. So we went for that when we arranged and when we mixed it. And we wanted it to be heavier than normal, not a lot of light sections. We wanted it to be more aggressive the whole way through a song. And so I think we did that.
So that was actually something you decided to do before you wrote the songs? It wasn't like it just turned out that way?
No, there was a conscious decision before we went in. Actually, we knew exactly the kind of songs we wanted to write before we went in, and how many we wanted to write.
I think that's kind of interesting because before each of your 3 latest albums, I think the rumors have been saying that this will be a kind of a heavy metal album from Dream Theater. Is this something you have had in mind for a while to make an album like this?
Actually, the thought came to me while we were on the 6 Degrees tour. At some point around that time, what happened is, we'd play a show, and then after the show, I would think back to which songs were really a lot of fun to play, which songs the audience really liked, and which songs we enjoyed playing. And it was always the darker ones, always the heavier, more progressive ones, like Home and Metropolis and Peruvian Skies and dark songs like that. So, kind of thought, well, wouldn't it be great to have an entire album of songs like that? So that's when that decision was made.
Do you ever think progression when you write new material to take it a step further or to make a different album? Or have you been doing that for each album?
Yeah, definitely. We always try to... That's why we think about what we're going to do before we do it. We try to think about where we just came from, what would be like the next interesting thing to do, how we can make it different, and how we can make it just more, exciting and enjoyable. And so.
Some parts of this album is very modern sounding, and I even read that somebody accused you of being a new metal band, actually. Who brought those influences into your music? And when you try out new sounds, do you do that in the studio, or do you do that during rehearsals?
Well, as far as the influence of a new metal sound, if you're thinking Limp Bizkit and Disturbed and stuff like that, that would be me, because I was kind of digging those guitar sounds and the production, the sound of the mix, the sound of the Linkin Park records and Chevelle and stuff like that. Not that we're going to play that style of music, but I loved the way the guitars sat in the mix, the way they sounded. So I changed the amp I was actually using. I went from a vintage amp to a more modern amp, Mesa Boogie amp. And when we mixed the record, it kind of used those other records as influences as far as the sound is concerned when we did the mix.
I think this is a very guitar-oriented album, less keyboards. Was that to make the album heavier?
Well, there's kind of a misconception as to what's actually happening in the music. Every time you hear something that sounds like it's only guitar, there's actually keyboards with that sound. And what we did was we created keyboard sounds that would contribute to the hugeness of the sound and not take away. Because one of the worst things that I can't stand is when you have a great riff and then the keyboard comes in with this soft melody and kind of ruins the whole thing. So Jordan made this really nice, earthy, organic, deep keyboard sounds, and they're a huge part of the sound. So, if you were to listen to this record and take the keyboards out, it would not sound the same. So all those riffs, like As I Am and Endless Sacrifice and all the big guitar riffs, the keyboards are playing all those parts. It's just that your ear doesn't really sound like it.
You are shredding a lot on this album. You're playing real fast. Is that something you just felt like doing, or you're kind of an icon to many guitar players, and they probably expect you to do something like that on the album. Do you do whatever you feel like, or do you have to do certain things to play like John Petrucci?
I definitely do whatever I feel like, but I usually, just like the writing of the album, I usually have an idea before I go in. And I felt like the last album, 6 Degrees, that there were a lot of guitar moments that were kind of more melodic, extended, Pink Floyd-ish and stuff like that. And on this album, I wanted to go with the aggression and really play some more ripping, solos. So I did that on purpose for my own feeling.
Can other guitar players that play real fast impress you? You play fast as hell. Is it possible to impress you by playing really fast?
Yeah, I've heard some guys that are unbelievable, that are really just have mind-blowing technique and speed. And, it's always a good lesson that you could never really practice and learn enough. There's always somebody out there that's better and faster and,
How come your vocalist James Labrie don't participate more in the songwriting?
It's just not a part of our formula. It's not the way we work. We've always from the beginning worked as instrumentalists when we write the music, and just the formula that we use.
You share when it comes to writing the lyrics. You split about half and half with Mike Portnoy. How do you sort that out?
Well, we always write the music first, and then once all the songs are done, then we'll decide how we're going to split it up. It's usually pretty easy. Like I'll say, I want to do this, that, and that because I feel close to it, or I have some cool melody ideas. And Mike will say, I definitely want to do this one because that would be great for this idea. And so it's really a very easy process every time.
Do you agree about a theme or a mood on the album to write lyrics that kind of fit on the same album?
Not really, unless we're doing a concept, obviously. But as far as individual songs, no, we don't talk about having a common thread. It's very independent.
Do you write music while you're on the road?
A little bit, not too much, to be honest with you. I just our schedule is such that we travel. Wake up, I'm in Oslo. Sound check, interview, warm up, and show. So it depends. I always bring my guitar to the hotel rooms and this and that, and so you never know what's going to happen. And a lot of times during sound check, we'll jam and we come up with stuff. But it's not a huge writing time for me. It's more of just concentrating on the tour.
Have you got a feeling of which direction you'll take next time? You won't make Images and Words again, of course. Now you made a heavy and a bit darker album. Which way to go?
Polka. I don't know. It's too early to tell yet. I will say that I really have enjoyed a lot of the techniques that we use this time around. I really like the sound of the record, the way we recorded it. So I'd like to continue with that. As far as the style, I'm not sure right now. It's too early to say.
You're involved with different projects from time to time. You did this G3 thing a while ago. Is it important for you to play with other musicians besides Dream Theater?
it's more like that. It's fun to do. You know, I mean, these are opportunities that come up. You know, Joe Satriani to ask me to play and jam with Steve Vai. It's just something you don't pass up. You know, it's a good opportunity. As far as is it important? You know, it's a part of being in having this as a career that I think is important. You know, sometimes you get stuck in one thing, and it's good to have fresh perspectives.
When you look at your back catalog, is it always the current album that is the best? And which album do you think is the weakest Dream Theater album?
Usually it is the current one that I feel is the best, yeah. As far as our weakest, it would definitely be the first one, When Dreamin' Day and Night, you know. Different singer, it was not recorded too well. Writing is a bit immature, you know. I think the strongest ones for me, personally, I would say were Images and Words, Scenes from Memory, and the latest one. I think to me those are the kind of strongest, the most well-written, best-sounding ones.